Praise the Lord, everybody. This is Brother Emmanuel here. I'm going to continue to show you about the Tascam DM-4800. This is a really nice soundboard to get a basic concept of what digital soundboards are like. I want to make sure we're able to control this board before we are able to get a new digital soundboard, which will basically be the same thing. Last video, we covered the difference between layers in the soundboard. We covered the different sections of the soundboard briefly. In this video, we're going to cover in depth what each section is. Now, for those of you watching this, and you're ahead of the series, or you're following the series, I do apologize. Some of this does have cosmetic damage, such as some knobs missing here that you would see on yours. You have a really taped up, but it can still give you the basic concepts that you need. Okay, so let's start from the top left-hand corner to the bottom right-hand corner. Now, I strongly advise you watch my other video because I'm not going to go through that stuff again. I'm just going to assume you know it. So let's start over here, top left-hand corner, which is really just this top bar here. It's all the same thing. Under each single knob, you have a label 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Which is basically the same label down here. It controls the same ones with those same numbers. Okay, and like we covered last video, if the same numbers on the same channel, that means if it controls 1, it also controls 25. If it controls 25, it also controls 49, and so on and so forth. So anyway, going back to this is your input control basically. So basically what you have here at the top is the phantom power 48 volts. Now this is an on and off switch. This controls 4 groups of channels at a time. I do apologize for the shadow. There's not much I can do about that. So phantom power 48 volts is basically if you have a condenser microphone in a studio. Those are normally really kind of expensive studio grade microphones. An example of that would be the blue microphone we have here at church. That has a light inside of it, and so when it's powered, you'll see that light turn on. Another example is the Shure SM58s, which are the other 2 wired microphones that we have at church. Those we have like about 2 of them, so that's a good example. Another good example is the drum microphones that we have. Those do require phantom power. It's a safe bet if it's wired, it will most likely require phantom power. But for those of you working in actual studios, it's good to just do research on the microphone you're using and to know if it needs 48 phantom power volts or not. If it doesn't, I would suspect that it could damage the microphone. But again, I'm not too sure on that. That would have to be your own research. Okay, so going down here, phantom power, you have an on and off switch. Okay, now you have this, each channel now has their own miniature switch, which stands for 0, -20, and line. So basically, if you switch it all the way to the right, it puts it on the line input. So the line input is your basic 1/4-inch input. So that's what the line does it for. It sets it to the 1/4-inch input. When you set it all the way to the left side, it puts it to 0, which is your mic input. So those are your XLR cables, which we have one right here. Those are your XLR cables right there. And then when you put it into the middle, that stands for -20. Now that is still a mic. Now that still puts it on the microphone, but -20 is your pad. So say you have a really loud guitar coming in via XLR or mic, then -20 basically softens up the sound so you can have a nicer sound and have it less distorted. And then of course, it says trim, but really this is your gain, and that's for every single part of the soundboard. Okay, moving downward, here you have your output assign. Now, the thing about this is that for every single channel, you have to select an output assign. Now, going through this, and I'll go more through this when we get into the routing video, but this is a lot of information. So on the left side, you have your sample rate, and right now we are at 48. That's the normal studio grade. Right now you have stereo sound or direct sound, which is basically, direct sound is basically the raw input coming in. Also on the output assign, you have left and right. You have center, Now, I don't know what all of these means, but I do know enough to get you guys started. You have left and right again, you know, so on and so forth. So normally what I do, and excuse my French, but I just do all that, and then the channel works. In fact, you don't even need to do all that. I find that when I just have the top, these top 3 muted, or I mean used, or just these top 2 on, I find that my channel still works. So this just lets it go out of the main left and right inputs, or outputs rather. Okay, so moving onward, you have your global controls. Now this is mainly for controlling the LCD screen in the middle here, but we'll go through that more later. Okay, here you have routing. This screen button you'll see a lot on the soundboard. You'll see it here, and you'll see it here again too. The screen button basically puts whatever the screen button basically displays something on a screen. So if you're in the routing section and there's a screen button, then that'll put you to the routing section. Same thing for the EQ section, which is this right here. It has a screen button. When you press the screen button in the EQ section, it'll put the EQ section on the screen digitally. Next, you have your library bank. This lets you basically scroll through all your projects and whatnot. And which brings us to the next part, this right here. This is your, let's go ahead and open this up. This is your SD card that stores all your information, all your files, all your set list, all your projects and things like that. And note, if you noticed, as soon as I pressed that button to take it out, you heard all these faders shoot down, and then now it says can't load project. That's because I don't have the right SD card in here. So note, this section changes for every single channel. So for every single channel, you're gonna have to go through and you're gonna have to route where you want it to go. Now note, this is the output assigned. So wherever you want it to output, you're gonna have to click on what you want it to output. We have, I seem to have misplaced it, but we do have the manual here. No, I did not read the manual. I just went through and I basically broke things and fixed things. Well, I didn't break anything, but I basically learned how to use it for what I use it for. So this isn't a full in-depth, this is not a full in-depth tutorial. This is just to get you started on using it. Not so much setting it up, but I can help you with setting it up a little bit. Okay, so next, going onward, here you have your big section here. So if you notice, this section right here, it's specific for every channel. So if you notice, this is channel 1 highlighted on the select side. This is channel 2. You know, it's all off now, so it's different, and you can see the difference for every channel. So it's the same thing for these. The only difference between this side and this side is that you can't see the changes with these knobs, but you can see the changes with these lights. So that's what the screen button is for. So on this side, you have your gate and compression, and I'll show you how that works in another video. Maybe I'll link it in the description in the future. But you have your gate on button, your compression on button, and note, now we're still on channel 1, but when I hit the channel 2 button, note those lights turn off. So that basically lets me know what channel I'm working with. So whatever changes you make with these knobs in this section, or any section on the for that matter, whatever changes you make, whenever you hit the select button, it's going to go away because you're going to be working with a new channel. And that's why this soundboard is digital, because imagining it this way, you're working on a Windows computer or a Mac computer, and you're doing, let's say, you're typing a paper in one tab. So it remembers all that you're typing, but as soon as you go to another tab, it's not going to have all that you typed on that. You know, say you're browsing Amazon and typing a paper. When you go to browse on Amazon, it's going to show you what you know, what's relative to browsing on Amazon. So it's the same thing with these channels. When you go to channel 1 and 2 and so on and so forth, it'll show you everything that is relative to that channel, and it'll allow you to make adjustments for that channel specifically. And then when you select another channel, it'll allow you to make the changes for that channel as well. So that's kind of a hard concept to grasp if you're not really taught it in person. But just know that whenever you press the select button, all these settings you're basically selecting that all these settings change for the one channel that you selected. So if you want to change channel, whatever this is, channel 8 or 7, then you would click the select button and you'd make your adjustments. So just to get that out of the way, moving downward, you have your EQ section. I note you have very small areas of gray blocks here to show you what each section is, and they're all boxed in. These green buttons are kind of in a weird, funky place, but if you understand that they're all boxed into the same sections, you'll know that this is your, it'll say module, but really this is just your dynamic, so your gate and your compression. So when you press that, it'll show you the gate and the compression. Also, it'll show you the EQ, if you press on the EQ section, and you can turn it on and off too, just like with the normal analog soundboard. You have your parameter edit, which is basically, whatever you're doing on the channel, you can copy and paste it, and it'll show you on the screen everything that you've done. And then last but not least, you have the two most important sections, which is your aux sends section. You have 12 aux sends for this, and this basically, these knobs basically show you how much of the signal from that channel you're sending through aux whatever. So say aux 3 is a speaker going to the drummer. So when you select a certain channel, let's say you want to send channel 5 to the drummer. So you'll click on the select button, you'll go over to this section, and you'll turn up the aux 3 knob, and that will basically turn up the volume that's being sent from channel 5 to the drummer, which is connected to aux 3. Last but not least, you also have your pan knob that controls if it goes left and right. Now, one thing I want to show you is I'm moving this here, and no, it's also being moved right here. That is because whenever you select a channel, all these have labels on them, which brings us to the next section. So you have your attack, your range, your threshold, your range, your attack. If you don't know, these are terminologies for the gate and compression. So if you don't know that, then you're gonna want to know it because it's very important. You have your hold, decay, your ratio. This is all gate and compression stuff. Then you have your, it should be here somewhere. I believe, I don't see it here. It should have the label of pan, but basically these control different settings for the channel. So if you want to change the attack on a channel, you can go ahead and move that knob. And now as soon as you go to another channel, it'll go back to where it was, or it should go back to where it was. I think it may be just for this section right here. Guess not. I'll have to look more into that. I apologize. But when you do change it, it's supposed to, or maybe it changes it for each channel. Okay, so I apologize. So these are actually also the pan knobs for each channel, so you don't have to select it. Whatever you do on these, they're all the pan knobs for each channel. So when you hit the, so let's turn this all the way up. When you hit the layer button, then these will start to change, because you'll be looking at a different layer of channels. But this is pretty much the pan knob also for each channel. So if you select this channel and you start changing the pan, it'll change it right there in real time. So you don't actually need to hit select and then change the pan, because I guess that would be tedious. But these knobs also control things, like I was saying before, like range and attack. They also control the aux sends. Aux sends, your lows, your highs, your gains, whatnot. I forgot how to get it to do that, but it did do that before. Maybe in a later video I'll show you how to do that once I refresh my memory on that. Moving more across the board, so we know everything up and down basically, except for this section and that section. So let's start over here only because it's easier. This is your push to talk button, and this basically controls how much of that volume is going through your small outputs, which basically on the soundboard on the back you have a small output. You have outputs labeled small and outputs labeled large, and they look like these. So basically whatever you have connected to those, when you push that button, this controls how much sound is going to the small outputs, and this controls how much is going to the large outputs. And then this is, like I said, your push to talk button. This is your phone's level. The Tascam DM-4800 allows you to have two headphones in there, and then you also have your talkback microphone, and this is your volume for that. Okay, this video is getting pretty hefty, so I'll leave it off with the LCD screen, and this basically allows you to see every change you make. So if you click on the screen button for EQ, and you start changing some EQ metrics with the knobs over here, you'll notice in real time it starts changing, and that allows you to see what you're doing. Okay, now that is a very important part of the Tascam monitor. So that's all the time we have for today. You guys have a blessed night. Thank you, and I'm sorry for the quality of this video. The next one will be better, shorter, and more compact with information. God bless, and thank you for watching.